How's it going, everybody? It's Tactard Ted. It is Wednesday, the 10th of August. And normally I've been lately on the tangent going on and on and on and on and on and on about Ukraine, but today I'm going to go on and on and on about something else. I'm going to be going on about federal law enforcement, or what passes for thereof. Okay, so we've seen recently the FBI, who at one time were a honorable organization, that used to be all about doing their job to protect the people. Now they are nothing more than a political wing, much like the Gestapo was. And I'm not kidding, folks. Let's not forget that Director Comey, early on in the Trump presidency, sent people over to try to entrap General Flynn and others because he knew that the Trump organization was disorganized. They didn't know how the game was played, and they were going to take advantage of it. And then later on, we had several officials at the FBI talking about how they were going to do anything to take Trump down. Okay. So, some of these folks had a hard-on for Trump. They wanted to take him down. They wanted to get rid of him. That's been established. It's not even arguable. So, imagine my lack of surprise when we had what we had happen this week. The FBI obtained a search warrant and went into Donald Trump's home and spent several hours lurking about, basically breaking and entering. I don't give a shit about your search warrant when you will not allow Trump to have his representatives or lawyers present because you don't want to get caught with whatever nefarious bullshit that you're pulling, like planting evidence, tampering with evidence, all that happiness. And the fact that you don't want to see anybody watching you not being very judicious or doing your due diligence in collecting evidence, then there's a problem. There's a real issue with that. And I think right now, you just need to be very, very aware that we have an FBI who will put parents on a terrorist watch list for expressing their displeasure with a school board, much like we had over in Loudoun County. Where parents were showing up. A father showed up to ask questions about his daughter who was sexually assaulted in one of the restrooms at one of the schools in Loudoun County, and he was arrested. And I will almost bet the FBI got that guy's name and put him on a watch list. I will lay money on it. So that law enforcement organization no longer has any credibility. When you become a political hack and you are an apparatchik, you are part of a party, you are part of an agenda, I got no use for you. I got no use for the FBI right now. Absolutely. The sad part is, knowing several ATF agents, I don't have a lot of respect for the ATF, but I've got a little more respect than I do for the FBI. But this whole federal level thing is bullshit. And I'll give you an example. Some of you guys know that I used to work on a federal contract. Our contract was administered by Federal Protective Services. Now, these are quote unquote federal officers, federal police, who they're tasked with overwatching guards who are securing federal buildings. This is nothing top secret, nothing untoward about that. Several of the individuals I met in interacting with FPS officers, or FPS inspectors, they like to be called inspector. One of them in particular was extremely buffoonish, always wanting to overstep his authority, didn't understand where his authority ended and other people's rights began. Had a personal confrontation with him. He eventually left after a pissing match ensued about somewhere where he didn't have jurisdiction, but he was sure he had jurisdiction. His replacement, several months later, were giving a pep talk to the security personnel of one of the buildings and started quizzing us on what we would do in case of a riot, in case people came in and tried to destroy the building. And we were told, back off, give them room to destroy, give them a room to tear everything up. Now, excuse me, but that's not the job of law enforcement, to sit back and let people tear shit up. And when you have federal security that are tasked with protecting the federal assets, the property, and the personnel who inhabit that property, you are being absolutely contradicting of the points that we were given when we all went to work there. And that's one of the reasons I left. I left for two reasons. One was because FPS was a bunch of buffoons, the ones that I had to deal with, and that the organization I worked for had racist tendencies that I couldn't put up with. And it was allowed to happen. So when people start talking about federal law enforcement and they're pointing at the FBI, I would hate to tell you just about it. A good majority of federal guys who work in law, quote unquote, law enforcement, really there are three categories. There are a few good fellows who will do their job and haven't lost sight. There are the buffoons who want to overstep their authority and think they're a big fish in a little pond and that you all have to bow down to them. And then there are the snowflakes, the liberal apparatchiks who just simply say, hey, no, let these people loot, let these people burn, let these people do all this bullshit. I got no use for any of that, folks. I got no use for any of it. I got no use for any of it. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And people say, oh, gray areas. You know what? Gray areas are just differing degrees of right and wrong. And at the end of the day, right is still right, wrong is still wrong. And what the FBI did the other day by not allowing any of Trump's representatives to be present was wrong. And they also asked the staff at Mar-a-Lago, or whatever the hell you say, at Trump's Florida place, that, hey, you need to turn the security cameras off. And they did not turn them off, much to their credit. Hell, I don't want to turn them off. Look, I'm sorry, guys. If you're doing a righteous job and your shit is dress right dress and covered down, you got no reason for those cameras to be off. Nope. You should be able to expose everything you're doing to the light of day. And if you're fucked up, pay the consequences. If you're doing right, you got nothing to be afraid of. You know, it's like even locally here. We've got a school board, and because we have a liberal sheriff in the county I live in, the school board is allowed to use the sheriff's department as their personal bitches, their personal security, to walk them to their car, because first of all, they know what they're doing is wrong. At least one or two of these guys know what they're doing is wrong, and they've been sold out by the sheriff. You know, over in Loudoun County, next county over, as I said earlier, there was this gentleman who went to the school board meeting because his daughter was sexually assaulted. And the police, on the orders of the school board, arrested this gentleman. And it caused a huge shit show over in Loudoun County. And basically, the sheriff's department has said that they're no longer going to work with the school board providing security for their meetings. Now, the interesting development with that is now Loudoun County has put out ads and feelers. I even I had a recruiter for their position reach out and talk to me about coming to work for them. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to be a paid thug for a school board that's out of control. I'm not. And you need to kind of look at what's going on. In our county, it's funny because the assistant superintendent, we had a thing going on here about a restroom. And in the meeting hall where they had the school board meetings. And apparently we were told that it was a security issue. You know, I've got a little bit of a security background, several continents, several countries. Yeah, I've been around a little bit. I've been doing this since I was like 17 off and on. So yeah, I'm an old fart. I got a little bit of experience. I know a little bit about what's going on. So I reached out and said, hey, what's going on with this toilet? You keep saying that it's a security issue. And the deputy superintendent, well, we partner with the sheriff's department and they're able to do it. Well, gee, man, I wonder if the sheriff knows that the assistant superintendent made it sound that the sheriff's department locally didn't have the attributes to secure a toilet in a 50-year-old school building. I wonder if the sheriff understands that, because he's selling his guys out to walk school board members to, literally, a school board member who goes on and on about how he was a big and bad wrestler, walk him personally to his vehicle because this guy's scared for his life because he's a raving shithead. And admits that he tunes parents out. Basically, he got elected, and now he feels that he's unaccountable to the electorate. In fact, electorate who put him there. I've seen him before. People have approached him after a meeting to try to talk to him, and he just doesn't want to talk. He won't talk, he refuses, and then he tries to shove a deputy in front of him. And, I think it's funny that this is a leftist and this guy's a liberal, absolutely a liberal. This seems to be the liberal thing from head to toe, that the police aren't here to protect or defend you or me. They're not here to protect the citizenry. They're here to protect the local or federal elected officials from the citizenry. Now, let's compare this with January 6th. January 6th, Congress wasn't burnt down. In fact, nobody was killed or beaten, unlike a lot of the riots that we've seen over the last 2 years. And tons of people were arrested. Tons and tons of people were arrested, right? But we have all these crimes against people. And there was a Mr. Dorn, a retired police officer who happened to be African American, was killed on live stream during one of these riots. And as far as I know, now I may be wrong, I haven't looked it up, but I don't believe that anybody's been called to account on that. No, the criminals can walk all over normal citizens. They can even walk over retired police officers and nothing happens. But boy, you scare a politician, you make him piss his pants. You try to ask him to account. You try to ask him to talk. They don't want to talk. And it's these federal police are just as bad as the local police when it comes to this. This is why you guys who have elected sheriffs, and you need to start paying attention to who you're electing and what they do. You absolutely do. And I'm going to make no qualms about it. Not only am I going to be politically involved in making sure that we have some changes here on the local school board, I'm hoping that we'll have a change in the sheriff's department come the next sheriff's election. Because, and the sad part is, I knew the sheriff here when he was a patrol officer. He was a K-9 officer. Had one of his dogs chopped up during a a confrontation with a guy with a samurai sword. I felt bad for the dog. Absolutely felt bad for the dog. Felt bad for him because I understand the bond. Got a little higher, and I'm not sure I understand what he's got going on. You know, he's become a politician and who covers their own. And I'm not sure I want to put up with all that. You know, politics is nothing new to this county as far as sheriffs. But what I'm trying to say is, it's just not the feds. This goes top to bottom. And we really need investigations of the FBI. The FBI seems to be out of control. We also need investigations of Federal Protective Service. I think the Federal Protective Service has outlived its worthfulness. And I think that something needs to be done. I know that one time Congress was talking about defunding Federal Protective Services because it felt that it wasn't required, it wasn't needed, and I agree with that. They're an oversight without oversight. They're an oversight that has nothing to do with law enforcement. It's more about kissing up to federal employees, kissing up to certain political agendas, allowing some people to break the rules while holding other people hyper accountable. And this is not what law enforcement is. This is not what they're supposed to be doing. But it seems to be the norm now. And that's my thought for today. I might come back here in a minute or two and make a video with updates about Ukraine. So anyhow, you take it easy. Bye.